Alright, so we have everything open underneath the kitchen sink. This is the disposal we're going to be replacing. So we're going to be taking apart this disposal. The client has selected to just go ahead and put back the same horsepower disposal that's currently in there. I'll show you here in a minute. This is a Badger 5 disposal, half horsepower, and we're going to be replacing it with a Wolverine Brass half horsepower disposal. The main difference is going to be in the housing of the actual disposal, where the Badger has steel components and the Wolverine Brass has stainless steel. So the housing should last quite a bit longer. It's going to be a little bit more durable, and the teeth are going to do a better job of grinding up the food and getting rid of it down the drain. First step when dealing with the garbage disposal is going to be to unplug the power source. Power source is plugged in right back here. We'll just unplug it. So now it's safe to completely disconnect. As you can see, it's a Badger 5. Here it's listed as a half horsepower. So when we replace it, it'll be the exact same horsepower. Now, when disconnecting the disposal, there's going to be some water in the P-trap. So I like to take a couple rags that's going to absorb some of the water that's going to spill with this or that's in the P-trap and when we disconnect the disposal. So we're just going to set that up. I've already removed all the contents from the sink, so I have an accessible area to work in. Disconnecting the P-trap, there's slip nuts. I'm going to loosen these up so that we can remove the P-trap portion of it. It's always handy to have a little bucket nearby so we can dump out the excess water. Set this aside. Next thing that we need to do is disconnect the drain, which is this guy right here from the dishwasher. There's a little hose clamp. And loosen this up. There will be some water again in this. And we'll just set this aside so it's out of our way. All the disposals come with a tool that looks kind of like a double hockey stick, and that's so you can do one of two things. One is that helps you disconnect this clamping ring right here, and then the other is in the event that you catch the disposal before the motor burns out, there's a way that you can unjam the teeth. But if you don't unjam the teeth and you let the disposer run, your likelihood and chances of the disposal motor burning out, which is what happened in this case. So we're going to use this tool and we're going to take off this clamping ring. In this case, I cannot get my tool into here to spin that ring off. So I'm going to take my screwdriver and a hammer and see if I can nudge it getting unlocked. So I got it to move. And there we go. There, I just used that tool. Now this disposal comes nice and free. Now that I have the disposal free, this is what I was talking about. This tool here can go in here. Sometimes you can unjam the teeth, but in this case it's all seized up and I can't spin the teeth. So, but that's what that tool is used for. After I have the old disposal set aside, next thing is unscrewing this clamping ring right here. So I'm going to loosen up these 3 bolts. And remove the tension off this disposer sink drain. Because in all disposals, I always replace this entirely. So now that I've got it loose, I'm just going to back these nuts or these bolts back out mostly, and that will allow me to raise this up because there's one more ring that I need to remove, and then everything should get disconnected. So I'm going to take a flat-headed screwdriver and lift this up, and then I can get in there and pull this ring off. There it is. There's just a tension ring, and that way that comes out. That way this comes off, and then this just slips up. Here's the top view of the drain coming out. And then this is old putty, so I'm going to take a rag here and get this all cleaned up. All right, we're going to unpackage this new disposal together. This is Wolverine Brass, 1/2 horsepower garbage disposal. We'll open this up and set everything aside, getting it ready for installation. I also like to use this box as a garbage box and we'll put the old disposal back in it. Now this disposal already has a cord on it, which is great. It is code to have a electrical disconnect, so that's where this is. A wall outlet is an electrical disconnect. A lot of times in some of the older homes, the power is coming right out of like the back cabinet and there is no outlet. So it is a good idea to have a wall outlet installed by a qualified electrician when you have your new disposal installed, and then they can also install a switch, as in this case, and that will turn the power on and off. Or you can install, they do have air switches which go up on a sink. So there are a couple different options for installing the switches, which you can talk to your plumber or your electrician about. This here is everything that comes in the garbage disposal box. We have our plug for the drain. We'll set that aside and out of the way. Don't need that for right now. This little package of goodies has our washers and that tool that I showed you earlier. I always like to carry an extra one in my bag, but all disposals, they do come with one. And as you can see here at the end of the video, we're going to just zip tie this right to the tubular waste piping in the end so that the client or the homeowner has it. So disconnect our drain. Slide that the right way, and that will pull off and get disconnected. Now this is, we're going to just set the main disposal aside for right now as we install our drain. We'll be basically disassembling this drain the same way that it was on the sink, with the exception of I take these screws all the way out. But for right now, we're going to take them all the way out and set them aside. We also need to remove that clamping ring. There's the clamping ring. Set that aside. And this is the order that it's going to go in. So through the sink, our vibration gasket, the clamping brass bracket against the bottom of the sink, and then this is what pinches everything all together. There is a rubber gasket here. This sometimes is used in lieu of putty or silicone, and it goes in the sink. I take this gasket and I throw it away. All right, on sinks, I am a putty guy. The only time I use silicone to seal this is if it is like a composite sink and the sink manufacturer specifically says do not use putty. Otherwise, on anything stainless steel, I'm going to use plumber's putty. So just grab a bunch of it. This is already nice and pliable, but rub it in my hands, and we'll make it into about a 1/2 inch diameter snake. So once I got it looking kind of like that, just wrap it around my sink drain. It's got a little thin, so I'm going to double it up a little bit. Won't be a problem. Take my excess, put it back in my tub, and then I kind of work the putty against the bottom seal of this drain. This particular sink clamp has a emblem right here. It says WB. So when we go to put this sink clamp in, we'll make sure it's pointing straight at you. So when someone's working or doing dishes at the sink, they look down and everything's centered and symmetrical. Here's the top view of installing the sink drain. Set this in place and kind of smush it down with your thumbs. Have a nice seal. That WB is pointing straight directly back at me, very symmetrical. And now we'll go underneath and I'll show you how to hook up the bottom side. Over the years of my experience, I've seen garbage disposal set screws such as these vibrate themselves back out after I've gotten them tight. So what I like to do, so I know I don't have that problem in the future, is I like to take some it's blue Loctite. So blue Loctite is Loctite that you can back the screw back out, but it will not vibrate loose. So I'll just put some blue Loctite there on the threads on all 3 of these bolts. And I can take my clamp and get them started here. All right. That vibration gasket, cardboard gasket, that's for the clamping drain. And we got to put this up here. And last but not least, then we got to put up our sink clamp. So done this enough where I can just hold it with one hand and then walk it around with my other hand. And then get it to snap in. And you'll hear kind of a soft thud. And that clamp will hold everything in place as we tighten up these bolts. You're going to be able to do hand tight for most of this until you get it snug. We'll do it hand tight till it's snug and do it evenly. So when you tighten these bolts, you want to make sure you tighten all of them as evenly as possible. So just work your way right around the circle. And you can tell when you're tightening them, you can tell that it's getting really, really snug. You don't have to hammer it all the way home because you still want some of that putty to be sitting in between the sink and the drain. Here's the top view of our sink. So this is all excess putty. I like to take my flathead screwdriver and just go all the way around the outside of this drain. And then all this excess putty will just lift right off of there. because the putty's still expanding and like kind of oozing out, we might have to go back over it one more time to remove the excess putty. But for now, that's a good spot. So now we're at a point to install the disposal below. Before we hang this disposal, there's one more thing that we need to do. In this port, or this port is for the dishwasher, so the dishwasher will discharge into it. Now, all the disposals, they come with a solid plug on the back side of this port. So if we hook up the disposal as it is and we leave and they go to use the dishwasher, this will not allow the water to pass through, allowing the dishwasher to drain. So I need to knock this port open. So I'm going to set this disposal down. I have a 7/16 nut driver that fits right in there, and I'm going to keep my other hand inside of the unit so when the plug falls out I can grab it. And then on this side I'm just going to take a hammer and give it a couple of good knocks until it breaks out. There, it broke out. Here's the piece. As you can see, there is the plug, so we'll throw that away. Now this disposal is ready to go. Before we hang this on the clamp, I'm going to put this drain together. This is a single basin sink, so there's no continuous waste. So this is going to be the drain, and we'll set that right on there. And this is our clamp and our screws. So open up this packet. Don't lose the screws. Pull out this is your washer and your clamp. Now your washer is going to go just on the inside of this lip. There's a little lip right there. So feed the washer over there. And then the clamp goes up like this, and that's going to hold it in place. There's two screws right here and here. We'll just set that in place, and then you're going to put these screws in and gently snug those screws up till they're tight, nice and snug. I like these disposals. This comes with, it's just a beautification gasket, so it covers over that metal clamp. It makes it look real sharp. All right, now we're ready to hang and put this clamp against the sink. This is probably the most tricky part of a disposal installation because the disposal is kind of heavy and awkward, and there's 3 tabs. So this is 2 and 3, and they all have to evenly go on the clamping drain. But this clamp doesn't like to always go up evenly. I can see the back one. All right, I'm on. All right, so I got that as tight as I could go with my hands. You can take the double hockey stick tool. This is what this is for. And I just locked that in place. I heard a little click. And there's a little tab on there that locks that in place. Sometimes if I really, really want to know, I just take my channel locks and make sure that it's fully on and it has no shot of coming off. So our disposal's hung. We can go ahead and reattach our dishwasher drain. Doesn't quite reach, so we're going to have to rotate this disposal and see that drain isn't going to fit. So that's not a problem because everything is fixable. The dishwasher line is not long enough and I can't pull anything out, so I'm going to have to reposition this disposal in a different spot. So here I can get my dishwasher hose on, that's fine. Now let's see what we need to do with this drain. So let's see if we can orient. Okay, so this orientation would work for the disposal drain, and it works for the orientation of the dishwasher. However, because I was messing with this drain, I'm going to have to take this off and drop it. And my sink clamp has gotten loose, so I need to retighten that. And reorient my emblem on the so maybe it was a blessing in disguise. Sometimes that happens. Things don't always go back the same way that they came out, because the new one could be a little bit different. So you always got to be prepared to make some adjustments. And in this case, it required removing the disposal after I had it mounted and then doing it again. But the good news is I have a plan how to do this again, and it should go a lot smoother. So we'll set that off to the side. We know that our drain needs to face more of the back when we lock it into place. And before we lock it into place, we'll confirm. We'll hold this up. Probably won't go in as well as it did the first time. All right, got two. I got three. All three of them are on. Before I tighten that down, just make sure that my disposal is oriented in the right position. There we go. Everything's lining up. So I can work with that right there. And I know my dishwasher drain will work. So I can go ahead and lock this into place. Take my channel locks because that worked out super well the last time we finished it. There we go. There we go. So now with my sink drain, we'll put that clamp back on. And then before we forget, we will tighten this up. Now we need to go get a tailpiece extension because again, here's another difference of adapting. The old one is a little different, or the new one is a little different than the old one. So we need to get a tailpiece extension for that space right there. And this tubular piece is unnecessarily long, so we'll cut that. Now I just need a tubular piece. Got my tubular extension cut. I like to take a little thread sealant and put it on these threads, just a little, nothing too crazy. It's just mainly for lubrication for the nut to go on there so I can get nice and snug. Put it on these male threads too back here. Got our nut, and then with these washers, you put the beveled end down, so the fat side up, so that then the nut can sink it into and create a seal right there. washer on, or nut and our washer on. And then we need a nut and washer on the back side of this guy. So we'll put a nut and a washer on this side. Get it started. This is the right way, so the tall piece of the P-trap goes over here. Raise that up so we can, there we go. And just tighten everything up. Now that our tubular and plumbing is all connected, make sure you go ahead and plug in the outlet. Make sure your switch is off. And the next and final step is to test this out. Here we are at the last steps for our garbage disposal installation. We've removed the old one, cleaned the drain, installed a new drain, put in the new disposal, refitted all the piping to make sure it fit. And now what we got to do is test. By testing, what I like to do is run the water, make sure that the drain is taking all the water. I also will go ahead and turn the disposal on. Make sure it works and functions properly. And then I'll fill up the sink with about 4 or 5 inches of water, and we'll check the waste piping to make sure there's no leaks. Here we got about 4 inches of water. Shut that off, reach in here and remove the drain plug. And while that's draining, I'm going to be checking all these plumbing connections, making sure that nothing is leaking. So far everything is super dry, no water anywhere. Good sign. Check the disposal one last time. We'll flip the switch. Runs like a kitten. And that installation is complete. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video as to how to install your own garbage disposal. I'm John from American Eagle Plumbing. Please hit the like, subscribe, and share button below. And don't forget to tell your friends. Be great.